Hello, beautiful stars. Courtney here with Stars of the Morning Light. And yes, I hope this video is coming out correctly. I should be down in the little corner and you might just see my face. This is so we can all look at the levels of consciousness chart a little bit closer. You can just Google this levels of consciousness chart. I suggest printing this one out. This is the best that's ever been found, in my humble opinion, or done, made up, created. This is from David Hawkins, very wise, and I use it pretty much in everything I do. The patrons of Stars of the Morning Light have gone through this extensively at some point. We might be returning back to it. This is my second attempt to record this, so I'm just gonna keep going and letting it flow as it should. I do realize I was probably talking too fast in the last one anyways, so I'm going to try to slow myself down and be present for what is happening here. This is like a bonus video. I will still be live on Friday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and I'm sure Lucky and I will record at some point this week because he has a lovely vacation coming. Lucky Stone 888 and we record and either it is posted here Friday nights at 8 p.m. and or we go live on his channel, Lucky Stone 888 on Fridays at 8 p.m. Everyone who might come across this video, I do need 500 more subscribers to be able to go through this kind of material and share screen on YouTube Live with everyone, and or to go live with Lucky on Friday night here at Stars of Morning Light. So consider subscribing. And I know there's a lot of people that watch my material, but don't subscribe. I still appreciate it. Please hit that thumbs up for me because I know not everybody wants to make a YouTube channel in order to subscribe to me. I suggest doing so. It doesn't hurt anything. It won't hurt, but at least give a girl a thumbs up or leave a comment below, please. So this past weekend, I gained a lot of awareness, as in confusion, with where I'm approaching or coming from things and or just what's out there. So the last time Lucky and I were together was this past Friday night, and we both kind of were not understanding each other, which is perfectly fine and beautiful. You'll also notice oftentimes when I record with him, he'll ask me, to respond in regard to how I think and feel, which is difficult. And you'll understand why when we go on with this video. I also taught a workshop on Saturday where someone posed something that I did not know was still um, being, I don't know, taught. The confusion as in words. This is all terminology. A lot of what will be talked about today is terminology, but I want to focus on the levels of consciousness chart to really clarify the I, we, one of things, and clarify non-duality. That is the biggest reason for this, okay? So I'm hoping everybody can see this chart better this way that I'm recording. Please, I say Google it. So down here, you will notice on the levels of consciousness, it is fear, or above it is love, right? This is why I am constantly saying, are we in fear or are we in love? Are we choosing fear or are we choosing love? And it was this past weekend that kind of opened my eyes to where that can even get confusing for people. So I appreciate the awareness that came in. My teachers have been saying for years to invite awareness into every situation. every moment, right? For me, it's just taking on a whole new, let's say, layers of awareness when I invite it in. One of the things before we really get deep in this, um, so I can make things very clear as to the clarity of what is going to be discussed. One of the students on Saturday during the training, we were going through the levels of consciousness chart, and I was explaining how consciousness is frequency, and then frequency is the dimensional living that we do, right? So consciousness is frequency, and frequency then is also your vibration that you give out. We'll learn about it. Um, and on this chart, you will see that there's numbers of frequency by all of these. Let me go into the third dimension here. So like third dimension, which you might also see that the colors represent the different chakra system as well. All the different colors, like down here in your root. So you will see that fear is at 100 frequency. Very low, very low. So we were talking about the fourth dimension during class on Saturday. And she brought up how she had always heard from whatever she was watching, teachers she's had, what have you, that the fourth dimension was a place full of demons. And so to get to five, you have to go around four to avoid being, attacked by demons or, influenced by demons. And as she was sitting there explaining this to me, at first it kind of threw me off. But then because I invited awareness in, I remembered that that actually became a very common misconception during that time period of spiritualism that we talk about so much during the Edgar Casey life skill studies on Wednesday afternoons. During the spiritualist movement, there were a whole bunch of people um, desiring to find enlightenment or gain power. There were a lot of different groups that were being created, a lot of self-practitioners, a lot of charlatans. And we can understand why. I mean, it was World War One, all sorts of stuff was happening. The Spanish flu came through. I mean, there was so much happening that people were trying to gain more power, gain more understanding, live differently, let go of the old. But a lot of terminology um, kind of overlapped within all of this and got confused over time. And I personally thought that the confusion had got all cleared up by the 1990s. I really did. It was still very confusing in the 60s and 70s for other reasons, but I thought terminology was at least corrected within this by the 1990s. I don't believe it has been. So, if anything, what I'm speaking about right now is just clarifying what dimensional living is opposed to different planes of existence. So, what she was referencing is that, like the astral plane. The astral plane is a different plane of existence. You do have to travel to it, as everybody talks about projecting or going to the astral plane, either in their sleep or in their meditation or their consciousness, what have you. You have to go to it. It is a separate plane of existence that is connected to ours, but it is a separate location, even, let's say, right? Opposed to like fourth dimensional living here in your waking life on this planet Earth. The fourth dimension is very much, if you want to think of it as demons, which that's not what it is, but if you want to, you can see it as all the insecurities, fears, and doubts and the pitfalls of life as you go up to five, and then something happens and knocks you back down. It's that teeter-totter back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, that double-minded man, right? That back and forth, that I have a lot of faith and then I don't have faith. I can walk on water, but I can't walk on water. It's a lot of that. Pardon me. It is not a different plane of existence like the astral, or even like the Akashic, or the ethereal, or even like galactic matters. It's those are different planes of existence. Dimensions, dimensions are based on our consciousness. Consciousness is frequency, and frequency is dimensions. I'll say it again when we start looking at this. Consciousness is frequency, and frequency is dimensions. So I tried to enlarge this so others could see hopefully better. Here's the third dimension. And we all know the third dimension. It's what everybody walks around in and what goes on this planet. Third dimension, still consciousness, still frequency. So we will see there is guilt, fear. Fear's at 100 frequency. Right above fear is desire. This is at the very tail end of when Lucky and I were talking last Friday night. Uh, at the very end, he mentioned he asked me what my heart's desire was for this coming week. And I went into this whole thing, of course I did, about how I try not to use the word desire because I know that desire is actually usually based out of some kind of fear. The fear of losing what I have or not getting what I want. Most fear is imagined. And so then we wrap it around with desire, as in, I should have what I want. And that is a very low number at 125. And above desire is anger. Because why? Did we not get what we wanted? Is it someone else that's in my way? Right? Which then leads us up to pride, which is above anger. Us versus them. I know I'm right, you're wrong. These are all very, very low numbers. Desire is 120 frequency. Anger is 150 frequency. Pride is 175. This is all very low, and it is third dimensional thinking, consciousness, experience of the 3D. It is also very me. And when I say me, this is where the I rests. This is where the ego is. And the ego is all the way through this. I mean, you still have the I, the individual, because we're going to be covering the I, we, one. So very much the I, the individual, is all in third, fourth, and it's also in fifth. Many people don't think so. And it's also still in fifth. The individual is still in fifth. The ego is still in fifth. This is all still here. So also when Lucky and I spoke on Friday, which I really appreciated that conversation, when I was going through it, I kept fumbling over myself. And more will be understood as to why through this video. But then I did a little side video about, are you a drop of water or are you the ocean? And I believe Susie responded, Max Vision responded, and Centurion's son responded. And thank you for responding and leaving a comment because like I said, all weekend I was taking in a lot of awareness as to people, places, and things, and the consciousness at large, including my own within this, the awareness. Um, it helped. It very much helped. Comments help. They do help me to understand others and to understand um, where words get confused. So down here, third dimension, we all understand it. Fear, desire, anger, pride. As we move into the fourth, we have courage, neutrality, willingness, acceptance. Okay. In a lot of ways, so courage is at 200, neutrality is at 250, willingness is at 310, acceptance is at 350. That's wonderful. And right next to acceptance and 350 is forgiveness, by the way. What I tend to tell people is most of us stay in this fourth for quite a long time. This is that teeter-totter. This is I have the willingness to accept until something doesn't go my way and I fall back down into fear or anger. I have the willingness to and the courage to try to remain neutral in this world until something doesn't go my way, because this is all I based still. It's all identity, ego, self based until something happens to knock me down back into fear, desire, anger, pride. Us versus them. I'm right, you're wrong. The duality, the duality, right? The duality. So I tend to try to tell people that we do stay in the fourth dimension for quite some time, trying to explain the or work on the neutrality, the observer point of view, the observer perception at 250 to build the trust with self, others, and some Godhead figure. Um, Over here, all the way across from neutrality, though, one of the slippery slopes is the getting by, right? The getting by. That is the people that end up being kind of such in a neutral stance. They end up being doormats um, because of, honestly, more fear-based stuff than actual neutrality. And we'll see that this says it's the in-between state. So when we move into more acceptance, and I'm not going to be teaching how to do all this and what's going on with all this. I'm just trying to bring clarity to things. If you want more understanding of this, please visit Stars of the Morning Light on patreon.com. I am going to be doing or giving out more free videos soon. One about the levels of consciousness chart, and then also the pyramid of self-ascension. I'm going to be doing that in much more detailed for even free members. But do know I teach there twice a month, and for $5 can get you in the door. So most people stay within this, and most people find that there's stuff they can accept, and then there's stuff they can't accept. That is because, once again, duality and the I attached to the duality. Okay. Do remember, in order to accept does not mean that you have to agree. No one had ever said that you have to agree with something in order to accept that it is, right? That it is happening, that it is a part of all of this, all of the three and the four, that it does affect the I, right? That it is a part of the duality that is all ingrained within these dimensions. And this is, once again, levels of consciousness. Consciousness is frequency. Frequency is consciousness. Or I'm sorry, frequency is dimensions. So, acceptance, though, if we can practice acceptance, it is, right? It is. We don't have to see it as good or bad. It is. We have to accept it is before we can get to any resolve of forgiveness or action plan or whatever it may be, prayers, whatever it may be. We can't even get to the resolve if there's no acceptance, right? If we're in denial. That at least is at 350. So acceptance is this very, very big, this is how I explain it usually, this very big, could be looming gate, could be a beautiful gate. It could be, it's just a very big, because acceptance in that regard, moving up to new humanity consciousness and the fifth dimension, is to accept all things, is to begin to try to lay down the duality, to lay down the judgment, to practice compassion, right? To practice compassion, to enter into more of a 5D consciousness, frequency, dimensional living. So it is very big for most people because it's full of all of the parts, all of death, shame, guilt, apathy, grief, fear, desire, anger, pride, courage, neutrality, willingness into acceptance. It has all of those parts. And all of those parts in our lives show up in various ways over and over and over again. Are we in fear or are we in love? Oftentimes, conversations in many groups, like 2, 3 weeks ago, a lot of people that I was talking to, they would bring up things like your life review when you die, this life review. Hard for me to even grasp anymore. Maybe a year or two ago, I could understand what they were saying. Hard for me to grasp. A life review or some kind of form of judgment of self. And this will make even more sense as we go, because even a life review is a part of some kind of fear. We attach life reviews to things like the pearly gates when we show up and we die and we have a life review for judgment, or a life review of we didn't do good enough and now we have to come back and learn even more lessons. When the only lesson that's ever been presented in all prophecies, in all masters that would speak about it, was their words would simply be, when humans learn to love, the world will change. We can't learn to love, though, when we are still judging ourselves and others based in some form of fear. I will talk more about that later. So, in this fourth dimension, that is not a hell plane of existence like the astral. Please do note the astral was always considered to be what was referenced as like the hell plane. It is there to trick, manipulate, control, and to hopefully trap your consciousness. So I am not, I do not subscribe to taking trips there. I do not say buy a ticket. Stay out of the astral as much as you can. And so when the student brought it up on Saturday in class, this was all new to her, hearing that the fourth dimension is really that back and forth game that our own mind, our own thoughts, based on what has always been the death, shame, guilt, apathy, grief, fear, desire, anger, pride, what has always been within our mindsets, the freeing ourselves of it, the back and forth. So that is fourth dimensional living, which is where most people are. And thank goodness that the energies right now are present for most people, if they so choose, can, as they lay down resistance and lay down judgment of self and others, and consciously practice compassion for self and others, they can move up. So let's move on up, folks. Let's move on up and see what's going on up here. So acceptance was at 350. So now we're working in love. We're choosing love over fear. Excellent. Oh my goodness, I'm so happy. As I said before, the I, the me, the identity of oneself that is always going to try to protect itself, right? Always going to try to save itself, always going to try to indulge itself. And even when we are martyrs, we are still indulging ourselves. It is always going to do that, right? The I, the ego, the I. It is still also present as we move into new humanity consciousness, where the I then, though, begins to inherit inner light and reason at 400, understanding, meaningful. New humanity consciousness, inner wisdom for the I, for the individual, at 440. Inner love, that's wonderful. The more we can sustain inner love at 500, the more we are open to walking in fifth dimensional living. But I'm going to keep going, folks. Fifth dimensional living, oneness and joy, 540, complete, perfect. Presence and peace, 600, bliss, right? This is fifth. Let's stay here for just a moment. In the fifth, there is still the I, but yet it says oneness and joy. It's because you have opened the I up to see the we and the one. You have opened yourself up to live in joy, peace, and harmony, to witness and experience, even if for a moment, the oneness, the joy, the peace, the harmony, the we, and the one. But the I is still very present. It is the individual who is walking around, experiencing, living, viewing this world at 500 and above, 500 inner love, oneness and joy, 540, right? Inner wisdom, 440. Now stick with me, folks. From the fifth, on this chart it says, as I'm going to try to blow this up as much as I can, the I am presence. The I am presence. That is the seventh. And so let me show you as well. Then this will say enlightenment, the great void, fifth or 12th dimensional experiences, full consciousness, divine grace and love. We are at 1,000, 900, 850, 800. What happens is when you are able to begin to experience the I am presence, which is all of the masters, who fed 5,000 people with 2 fish, the I am presence. The master who would be on one side of the river like Buddha, and then all of a sudden he's on the other side. All of them, the I am presence. Within that, there is no more I, other than the I am, as in the one, as in the one, as in miracles can happen, as in you do create a new earth, as in you, if any of you have been listening to the Emerald Tablets material in the playlist, where you create form out of the formless, all the stuff that people want to get fancy with your alchemical things. Easy peasy with I am presence, right? The reason why, and this is a very, very big reason why, and it has to be understood, right? Is the non-duality at 670. Non-duality at 670. Now, before I continue on, I do want to say, lovely beings, you beautiful stars, ascension is not a requirement for living. It's not a requirement. Last Friday at a live at 11 a.m., I spoke of how different types of humans were created. If a human chooses, everything is based on choice. That human free will is magnificently powerful. It truly is. It's what shapes this world and continues to elevate or decrease. I mean, it's a fascinating gift of ours. Ascension is not a requirement to live. If you, in this life, and I say this because there's still so many that, I mean, self-judgment seems to be so profound that even within this system, for some reason, even those who are trying to practice compassion, it always seems to be for the others and not themselves. The mind is a tricky place. So even if one day we do better the next day, one day, the next day, one day, the next day, it is not a requirement. You are not failing in any way. I've had so many talks of people feeling like they've been failing lately. No one is failing anything. We are just all living. We are all living, and it's beautiful and it's lovely. So, with that being said, that ascension is not a requirement for living. The I am presence, the non-duality. This is when, and then there's awareness above that at 700, the great void, which I'm not discussing in this video, divine grace and love at 850, and we're moving right up. When you get to the I am presence of the seven, right? The seventh dimension, um, the 12th and above, and I do believe there is a 13th, not on this chart. Um, but it wouldn't matter because once you're at the I am presence, all of this is opened as well. All of this, you are living with the awareness of this full consciousness, right? You're living within the divine grace and love. It is filtering through into your I am presence. Masters say things like, I am the truth, the light, the way. Meaning, I've done this. Meaning, just I'm a reflection of what can be. The non-duality is the biggest part, though. So in 3D, in 5D, there's still the I. And usually in 5, people move into understanding the we. And because it is open to witness the one and see the one, well, then it helps them to expand even more of their awareness and understanding, right? Of their conscious frequency. But there's still the I in 5D. So it's more and we, I and we in fifth dimensional living. I and we. It's beautiful. It's great. It's wonderful, right? That the I completely understands its connections with the we and knows that the oneness is connected to the we. With the I am presence of the seventh dimension, the non-duality. When there is no duality, when there is absolutely no concept of duality in a living existence, when an individual comes into the we and then is able to come into the one, it is no longer a drop of water. It is the ocean, because a drop of water opposed to being an ocean, and this is not against anyone. I'm explaining how this works. A drop of water, the I, is causing a separation from the we and the one, which is a form of duality. It's a form of judgment. So in the seventh dimensional existence, the I am presence, there is no judgment. There is no judgment. So this is when we get, well, how am I not the ocean when I'm all? Because to see myself different than anything else or separate than, there would have to be duality within there. There would have to be some form of self-judgment or judgment of something else that would block me from understanding I am all, as all is all. This is where philosophers come up with sayings like that. All is all, right? Because it is obtaining the non-duality, no judgment, no judgment. This is also, because others might have heard me reference over time, I don't believe in karma, because that is a form of self-judgment. I don't believe in judgment at the pearly gates when I die. That's a form of judgment. I don't believe in uh, anything. I don't know. I don't believe in anything that has any form of judgment to it. And that's the thing, is we tend to, because of living in 3D, that is a lot of judgment. Fifth, where it's still present and we're trying to learn how to choose love over fear. We're learning how to choose love over fear more often than not. Into we're not in judgment, non-duality existence. So therefore we can create form out of the formless. The only thing that holds humans back from creating form out of the formless or instantaneous manifestations, as my teachers would say, or what have you, right? Walking on water. The only difference is that duality that is still very present within 3 and 5 and 4. 3 and 5 and 4. And it is truly that duality that does the teeter-totter in 4, big time. So I wanted to make that just more clear so that A, consciousness is frequency, and frequency is the dimensional living that you experience. The fourth dimension is not de a, a demon plane of existence that you have to like somehow go around to get to five. That's not, that's more the astral plane, not a conscious frequency dimensional living experience. And I wanted to explain the non-duality, the I am presence, the I am presence. Now, can you imagine having absolutely no judgment, no judgment of self, no judgment of others? Others aren't judging others. There's no God figure judging us. Absolutely no form of judgment. Absolutely none. That is when some can say, well, I am the ocean. Because without judgment, there is no separation, right? There's no separation. Judgment is separation. That's it. Judgment is separation from the great consciousness and the I am presence that we could be. So I'm putting this out there because I'm realizing, and it's not just, the conversation Lucky and I had last Friday night, which was brilliant in lots of ways, um, and interesting in lots of ways. I don't think either he nor I really knew what was coming out of each other's mouths or what was happening. Um, he's a great man, though. Lucky Stone 888. His channel's in the description. Please subscribe to him. He's a beautiful being. Um, not just that conversation, not just the conversation or the live that I did on Friday morning at 11 a.m., which I will be with you all again this Friday. I have come to understand where words get confused, where words get misdirected in my own speech and throughout the 3D, 5D experiences that people have. So I wanted to bring clarity to the I, we, one. That is the process. So if you want to see it in any way, shape, or form, I, that's where everybody is. Everybody's in the I. That's a definite. Well, I shouldn't say everybody. I shouldn't say everybody. I excuse myself for that. I shouldn't say everybody. But for most of us, the I into the we, when it becomes not about us. That we is when it is not about us. It's not about personal survival. It's not about personal protection. It's not about personal um rights and personal this and personal that. It's not about that. It's the we. And like I said, not even self-sacrificing in like a sick martyr way, because that is very self-gratifying when it truly becomes the we, right? But in a healthy, good way. When we realize that this life is not really for us, it's for the we. That's when we can move into seeing, very much seeing and experiencing the compassion for self and others, the oneness and joy, the inner love, the inner peace. But it has to be healthy. And so many people I know are practicing all this stuff, but we forget ourselves in that compassion, right? We forget ourselves as in we do a lot of deeds for others because we think we're doing it for the we. That's not necessarily how the we works. So the I, we, one, and the oneness, as I have shown, I'm going to zoom in even more. You witness the oneness and the joy, 540. Presence and peace, 600. Non-duality is above that. And see, many are not thinking that way. No judgment, absolutely no judgment, because there cannot be judgment because duality is judgment. Us versus them, me versus you, my needs over your needs over my needs, whatever it may be, right? Non-duality means no judgment. No judgment of self, others, anything. There's absolutely no separation, no judgment. You live. You live as the great I am presence. So, folks, I hope this helped. And once again, I want to remind people, especially in today's world, I mean, the term ascension, the term, enlightenment, all this 3D, 4D, 5D jazz, right? All these words, a lot of words, which words are beautiful and wonderful, but words also can confuse the mind, right? Be with yourself, hand to heart, and give yourself some of that acceptance, compassion, and grace and forgiveness, because this is not a requirement for life. It's not. So we keep it simple. We keep it extremely simple. Am I in love or am I in fear? Am I in love or am I in fear? Keep it very simple, because self-judgment is usually what knocks us off. That pulls us back into 3D, right? Self-judgment of why not yet? Why not now? How long is this going to take? Once again, another conversation this past week. Another person said, well, geez, I hope I did enough this time around and learned enough and was good enough to not come back. And it breaks my heart to know that all the words coming out of their mouth was of self-judgment. Every time I hear someone say that, I hope I've learned all my lessons. I hope I've done good enough. I hope I was a good enough person that, I can leave this place and not come back, and I don't have to reincarnate to go through this again. It is nothing but judgment of self, judgment of this place, judgment of others. And it breaks my heart. But I also understand that's a part of the process, a part of who they are. And so I celebrate their journey. I do celebrate it. I say none of that is a requirement for living. Are we in fear or are we in love? Are we in fear or are we in love? So I do love you all. I do love you. I hope this video came out right. And I will be live Friday morning. What is it going to be? September 6th. Oh my goodness. Happy September. September 6th at 11 a.m. live here that morning. And then also I'm sure Lucky and I will post something that night for 8 p.m. Also Edgar Casey Life Skill Studies on Wednesdays. I'm just going to say that from now on because it's hard for me to stay on the schedule with that, but on Wednesdays. And that's always a good time. So please consider subscribing, hit the thumbs up for me, leave a comment below. This was more of a video for some clarity as to why I say what I say, right? The I that's behind this mic talking to you, exposing the levels of consciousness. Um, it was more just for clarity with the I we won and the non-duality. Ah, I love you all. Shine, 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 you beautiful stars. If anything, that's what life is all about. To shine, to be a shiny one. It's good times being a shiny one now, isn't it? Bye, everybody. Have a great weekend.